Bienvenidos. Muchísimas gracias, Andrés. Buenos días. ¿Cómo están? Estoy muy complacido de escuchar eso. No estoy totalmente seguro de cómo me encuentro yo todavía. Llegué a Puebla anoche. Esta es mi primera visita a Puebla. Se me dijo que estoy a 1,500 pies de altura sobre el nivel del mar. ¿Es eso correcto? ¿7,000? Esto explica este sentimiento, esta sensación que tengo en la cabeza. Lo otro que también explica esta sensación que tengo en la cabeza es este evento. Andrés me invitó hace ya tiempo y escuché tanto hablar del Festival de la Ciudad de las Ideas que se realiza en Puebla que me siento emocionado de estar aquí. Me parece que es una de las conferencias más importantes que está teniendo lugar en este momento. Las personas que conjuntaron la hospitalidad que brindan la ciudad, el apoyo del gobierno y de los patrocinadores es algo extraordinario. También quiero decir que pienso que la importancia de la Ciudad de las Ideas es mayor que la ciudad de Puebla. Existen interrogantes que surgirán en el transcurso de los próximos días aquí, que son interrogantes importantes no nada más para Puebla, sino para el mundo. Y lo digo con toda seriedad. Vivo ahora en los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica. No soy estadounidense, debo señalarlo. De hecho, ¿cuántos de ustedes aquí han estado en la ciudad de Los Ángeles? Levanten la mano. Ah, sí, muy bien. ¿Cuántos de ustedes han visitado la ciudad de Las Vegas? Levanten la mano. ¿Sí, en verdad? ¿De qué se trata la ciudad de Las Vegas en realidad? Visité la ciudad de Las Vegas hace 5 años con mi esposa. Habíamos estado juntos durante 35 años. Y hace 5 años celebramos nuestro 25º aniversario de bodas. Y mi esposa es una gran seguidora de Elvis Presley. ¿Cuántos de los aquí presentes son seguidores de Elvis Presley? Ah, bueno, ahí hay varias personas. Muy bien. Ella, pues, como les digo, es un fan de Elvis Presley. Y, de hecho, somos 3 los que participamos en este matrimonio. Mi esposa, Elvis Presley y yo. Afortunadamente, yo estoy vivo. Así que esto me da una ligera ventaja en esta relación. Pero bueno, fuimos a la ciudad de Las Vegas, a la capilla de Elvis, y nos casamos una vez más para celebrar nuestras bodas de plata. Y lo menciono por una razón. La razón es la siguiente. Si ustedes han estado en Las Vegas y lo piensan, no existe razón alguna para estar ahí. ¿O sí? La ciudad de Las Vegas está en medio de ninguna parte. Está en un desierto, en medio de un entorno silvestre. Nadie colocaría una ciudad donde se encuentra Las Vegas si estuviesen pensando razonablemente. Cualquier otra ciudad tiene una razón de encontrarse donde está ubicada la ciudad de Puebla, estoy seguro. Está aquí por una razón. No sé cuál sea esa razón, porque nunca antes había estado aquí. Pero estoy seguro que existe una buena razón por la que Puebla está aquí. Hay un río aquí, ¿no es así? Y es un lugar donde se permite el cultivo. Yo vengo de la ciudad de Liverpool, en Inglaterra, y ese es un puerto natural, así es que es un buen lugar para tener un establecimiento. Las Vegas está en medio de la nada. La única razón por la que Las Vegas se ubica donde está es la razón por la que quiero que nos pongamos a pensar aquí. Las Vegas tienen algo único para los seres humanos. De hecho, representa muchas cosas que son únicas para los seres humanos ahí en Las Vegas. Como, por ejemplo, el bailar en tubo, que es algo único para los seres humanos, ¿no es así? Otras especies no hacen baile del tubo. Esto es algo que solamente nosotros hacemos y todavía no estoy seguro de cuál es la razón por la que la hacemos. Quiero decir, el poder de la imaginación. Las Vegas es una idea. Fue la idea de alguien. Y ha llevado a un vórtice de actividad creativa. Existe solo por el poder de la imaginación humana. Ahora, no estoy pidiéndoles que aprueben la idea de Las Vegas. Lo que quiero es que quede registrado en ustedes que la imaginación es el elemento, yo pienso, que nos diferencia de todos los seres vivos de la Tierra. En muchos sentidos, somos como todas las otras formas de vida de la Tierra, algunas cosas más, otras menos. Nuestra vida es corta comparativamente, dependemos de la Tierra para el alimento, de los nutrientes, porque dependemos de la atmósfera. Es un planeta frágil en el que vivimos y dependemos los unos de los otros. En gran medida, somos como otras formas de vida. En los últimos miles de años nos hemos convencido a nosotros mismos de que somos diferentes de las otras formas de vida. Vivimos en ciudades como la ciudad de Puebla y asistimos a centros de convenciones como este y nos convencimos a nosotros mismos de que de alguna manera nos diferenciábamos del resto del planeta, aunque no es así. Y la naturaleza nos está enseñando una lección al respecto en este momento. Pero en este sentido sí somos diferentes. La imaginación, yo creo, es nuestra ruta hacia el futuro. Me encanta el tema de esta conferencia, los orígenes del futuro. Cuando digo que nos diferenciamos en un solo sentido de otras formas de vida, tiene una implicación enorme. La implicación de la imaginación es la siguiente. A través de la imaginación tenemos el poder de ser creativos. La creatividad no es lo mismo, yo creo, como la imaginación. La imaginación es la habilidad de traer a la mente cosas que no están presentes ante nuestros sentidos. La habilidad de salirnos del momento, de retroceder en el tiempo, de revisitar el pasado y reinterpretarle, de acudir, de ir al futuro. Yo no creo que podamos predecir el futuro. Aun cuando hay quienes que se enorgullecen de predecir el futuro, normalmente no es posible. Y debemos aprender esto de la economía en los últimos 5 años. Hay una cita de J.K. Galbraith, un economista, sobre la impredecibilidad del futuro. Él dijo que el principal propósito de los pronósticos económicos es hacer que la astrología se vea como algo respetable.
I believe this is true. We can't predict the future, but we can anticipate it. We can anticipate the consequences of our actions. And in doing that, we can help to shape the future. I believe that the future that we face is unpredictable, uncertain, and unlike any period that we have experienced in the past. It seems to me there are 3 themes here that we might consider over the next few days. The first is this, that we are living in times of revolution. It's a word that Andreas used, and he's completely correct. There are forces changing the world now for which there is no precedent. You'll hear about some of them. Technology is changing everything faster than we can imagine. 10 years ago, Google was a novelty. There was no Facebook, no Twitter, no smartphones, none of the things that we now take for granted as part of the everyday business of living in an advanced economy. So technology will change everything, and it's moving forward at a rapid rate. The developments of the next 10 years will probably overshadow the past 10 years. Our children are moving into a world of tremendous and deep uncertainty, and so are we. But the second factor, and you'll hear Hans Rosling, I'm sure, talk about it later on, is population growth and change. It's not just that the Earth is getting more and more populated, it's the shifting patterns of population. There are currently nearly 7 billion people on the Earth. That's more people than have ever lived on Earth at one time in human history. Well, we're heading to about 9 billion if things continue as they are. There was a wonderful documentary a while ago on the BBC entitled How Many People Can Live on Earth? In terms of fuel, water, energy. I'll boil it down for you. What it came to is this, that if everybody on Earth consumed at the same rate as the average person in Rwanda, the Earth could sustain a population of about 15 billion people. But if everybody on Earth consumed fuel, water, food, at the same rate as the average person in North America, the Earth could sustain a population of 1.2 billion. And we now have nearly 7 billion. And by the middle of the century, we may have 9 billion people on Earth. This is an untested experiment. And we don't know if we can make it work. What we do know is, well, at least what I believe at the moment, is that we are not even beginning to engage properly with the problem. And I want to mention just a couple of things that relate to it. So that's the first thing. These are revolutionary times. How many of you here have got young children, can I ask you, at school? How about grandchildren? And the rest of you have seen such children, have you? Small people wandering around. Small people who don't shave. You can't miss them. Well, those children will be living through some of the most tumultuous times that we have ever known, and facing some of the most serious challenges that we've ever created, and they may be retiring round about 2070. Well, nobody knows what the world will look like in 3 years' time, or 2 years' time, or 5 years' time. So my second point is this. If we are to meet this revolution, we have to take seriously the theme of this conference. We have to recognize that our best resource is the power of imagination, and what flows from it, which is the power of creativity. Creativity is different from imagination, because you can be imaginative all day long and never do anything. To be creative, you have to do something. Creativity is very practical. I call it the process of having original ideas that have value. You can be creative in anything. Mathematics, music, art, business, physics, chemistry, and you'll hear some wonderfully creative people over the next few days here at the conference. But it's because of this unique power of human creativity that many of the problems we face have now appeared. Let me explain that. When I say that we're similar to most life on Earth, we're evolving at about the same rate, probably. Except, I mean, that's true biologically, but culturally, we are not. If you have a dog, I don't know if you have a dog, but you will notice about dogs, there's not much changing in their lives, is there? Culturally, things don't change much for dogs. You don't have to keep checking in with dogs to see what's new in the whole dog field. You know, like, what are you guys up to? They're pretty much doing what they always did. Human beings, though, are always on to the next thing. There's always something new with human beings. And the reason there's something new is because we have this restless power of creation. It's what gives rise to the great web of human culture. But I believe it's not something that we all feel we have equal access to. In fact, on the contrary, in some respects, the most important people that we should be considering, our children, are being denied access to their most important creative powers, I believe, and in particular that's happening through our systematic processes of education. I believe that many of our children, many of you, were educated out of your creativity. And if we're to face the future, my second argument is we have to rethink the nature of our natural abilities. I published a book a while ago called The Element. I have to tell you, this book is fantastic. You would be foolish not to buy this book, frankly. I wrote it myself. It's that good. That's what I'm saying to you. It's that good. But The Element is, you know, when we say somebody's in the element, what we mean is that they're doing something that they are relaxed in, that they clearly love, that they're at their most natural. You see, I find this is true of people. Many people, in my experience, many adults, I don't know if this is true of you, I don't know, but many adults don't enjoy the work they do. They just do it. It's something they wandered into, and they get through the week, and they wait for the weekend. They don't find it fulfilling. But I also meet people who love what they do and couldn't imagine doing anything else. If you were to say, why don't you try something else for a change, they wouldn't know what you're talking about, because they'd say, well, look, this is who I am. This defines me. I know teachers like this, I know scientists like this, economists like this, physicists like this, politicians. Almost every occupation has somebody who would love it and somebody who couldn't bear to do it. And the reason is this: to be in your element is two things. Firstly, if you're in your element, you're doing something for which you have a natural aptitude, something that you just naturally understand. I don't mean you understand all of it, but you get it. one of the reasons so many people are not in their element is that in our public institutions, especially education, we focus on a certain type of ability and we exclude other forms of ability as not being important. So many people find that their abilities are marginalized institutionally in the way that they're educated. The element is really a celebration of diversity. And by the way, these talents are often buried very deep. I mentioned Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley went to school in Mississippi, in Tupelo, Mississippi. He was not allowed in the school glee club. They said he would ruin their sound. Elvis. Well, we all know what great heights the glee club went on to once they'd managed to keep Elvis out of it. So often these talents are buried deep. But the second thing about this is it's about passion. I know a lot of people who do things they don't care for. To be in your element, you have to love it. And if you love something you're good at, you never work again. Have you heard of a man called Bart Conner? Let me tell you quickly. Bart Conner lives in Norman, Oklahoma. I'm helping to run a whole project in Oklahoma on creativity and innovation. And when he was 6, he found that he could walk on his hands as easily as he could walk on his feet. We don't know how he found this out, but he did. And then he found he could walk up and down stairs on his hands as well. Well, he said it wasn't much use, but he was popular. You know, he was in demand at parties to do this. His mother thought about this, and when he was 8, she arranged with the school to take him to the local gymnasium in Morton Grove, Illinois, which is where they lived. And he said he'll never forget the feeling he had when he walked in to this gymnasium. He said it was intoxicating. I said, why? He said, well, there were wall bars, there were ropes, there were trampolines. He said it was intoxicating. Now, is that how you feel when you walk into a gymnasium? Do you? Looking around, I don't think so, frankly. I think you do not all find this intoxicating, I can tell. I don't, you see. If I go into a gymnasium, I don't find it intoxicating. I need to get intoxicated if I go into a gymnasium. I need a drink. But he loved it. And 10 years later, he walked onto the mat at the Montreal Olympics, representing the United States and the male gymnastics team. He went on to be the most decorated male gymnast in American history. He lives now in Norman, Oklahoma. He's married to Nadia Comaneci. Do you remember her, the first Perfect 10? They have a wonderful little boy called Dylan, after Bob Dylan. And between them, he and Nadia have been supporters of the Special Olympics movement and have helped to liberate the capabilities of thousands of athletes with special needs. I want to make 2 quick points about this. His mother could have said to Bart, stop it with the hands thing and get on with what you're doing. Instead, she encouraged his talent. But secondly, even encouraging it, she couldn't have known where it would lead him. She couldn't have anticipated the life that he would lead as a result. Because life itself is naturally creative. We create our lives and we shape them and we can make them what we want them to be. Because life is organic and not linear. And the problem, I believe, with many of our institutional practices is that they are mechanistic, they are linear, they're inflexible, and they don't make proper use of the natural talents of the people in the organization. And that's especially true, I believe, of our education systems. If we're to meet this revolution, we have to have a revolution how we think about people and the conditions under which they will flourish. And I believe that has to be based on a different conception of passion and ability. Not just for your children, but for all of you. Not far from Las Vegas is a place called Death Valley. Has anybody here been to Death Valley? Death Valley is the hottest place in America. Nothing grows there. And nothing grows there because it doesn't rain. In the winter of 2004, it rained. 7 inches of rain fell on Death Valley. And in the spring of 2005, there was a phenomenon. The whole floor of Death Valley was carpeted in flowers. People came from all across the country to see this extraordinary sight, that Death Valley was not dead. Of course, what it shows is that Death Valley was never dead. It's dormant. right beneath the surface are these seeds of possibility waiting for the conditions to be right. And if the conditions are right, life is inevitable. That's how it is with organic systems. And we are organic beings. And if the conditions in our schools, in our institutions, in our governments, in our universities are right, people flourish and become themselves and give their talents in a way that they simply don't if the conditions are hostile to the nature of their own personal talent. And I believe for the future, to meet this challenge, we have to look hard at the conditions under which we educate and run our institutions. And then we have to behave differently. And some of those strategies are in the book, and some we'll be discussing here later on. There was a wonderful quote by Anais Nin, the poet, who said that at the end of her life, or that when she looked back, that there came a point when the pain of remaining tight in a bud was greater than the pain it took to blossom. And I believe for great cities like Puebla, for great countries like Mexico, for all of us, we have to blossom, we have to make these talents flourish. And when we do that, we'll find that the origins of the future are inside of ourselves. Thank you very much.